Are they going to eat? Are they going to pay a light bill? Are they going to do this? We as a church get off the beaten path, and looking at this, I'm going to read it again. Do not mistreat, do not take advantage of the widows or the fatherless. If you do, and they cry out to me, I will certainly hear their cry. And my anger will be aroused, and I will kill you with the sword. Your wives will become widows, and your children fatherless. We have a lot of fatherless children out there right now. We have a lot of mothers that have lost their husbands to senseless violence. But on the flip side of that, we've had, but because you see a lot of women now doing more than guys. You see a lot of women have kids have lost their mothers. So they're not only fatherless, they're motherless because of senseless violence. Sunday, I made a statement and asked, how many of us have ever just sat down and listened to our youth? And we sat down and listened. So not giving them, and I know some people said I listened, but I told them what to do afterwards. No. Because in your mind, to me, in your mind, you was already formulating what you was going to tell them. One of the things at management classes we took, we did an exercise that we were going to say, because a lot of times when people talk to us, we're already trying to figure out what we're going to say in response. And because we're trying to figure out what we're going to say in response, we're not really listening to them. Right? All of us are. So the exercise was this right here. You take the last thing they said, and you derive your question right in there, your comment or question, based on the last thing they said, to continue the conversation. Not to answer, not to give judgment, not to try to fix the problem, but just to continue the conversation, to allow them opportunity to let their voice be heard. I seriously believe that our youth, let me do it this way, because I want to say the youth, but I want to say the new in the church, the youth, our elderly, have been crying out. And God has heard their cry. And because we as a church can answer their cry, He has put the sword on the church. Mm-hmm. Because remember, Israel, these His people that He's talking to. These His people that He's getting. These ain't the hoodlums, these ain't the thugs, these ain't the drug addicts. These His people. This His people that He led from out of bondage. It's His people that He's talking to. Right? So He said, I asked you to do, I'm going to put the sword on you. I believe that after reading that today at work, in the midst of all the chaos, like I always do, and I just give the disclaimer. I don't look over the lesson that I'm going to teach until either on the way here to church or at work. And I allow the Holy Spirit to guide me the whole way. But for some reason, I told Sister Cynthia all the time, I can't do that when I'm preaching. I sit there and pull out my hair trying to figure out where to preach. But on Wednesday, I can get up and all is good. So I really, when I saw that, I ain't going to say the light bulb came on, but the wheels started turning. I started asking myself questions, Sister McCabe. I understand we're under the new law. I understand that. But sometimes we always talk about the old man farm. Is this one of the things that we're failing to do as a church? And I say youth because it says fatherless, but our elderly too. And we have some elderly folks in the church that we have pushed to the side. We have some youth that we have pushed to the side. And yes, we're trying to get, and I think that me and Sister Linda talked about this with the Masonic Order. Yes, we're trying to usher in a new age. We're that's where we are right now. But we got to understand we got some people that are just not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that got the smartphones and could do all of this other stuff, but when they come to church, I'm going to do nothing. I ain't talking about them. I'm talking about you have some folks that they do for one because they're on a fixed income, can't afford a smartphone. Right? And not only that, if they got the smartphone, they're on a certain plan, so they can't do a lot of stuff. So we still got to make sure we reach out to them. That's why the class leader system is so important in the LD church, because the class leaders can go and talk to the ones that hadn't been there. And not exclusively the pastor too. The pastor should be able to reach out to those, stop by their houses, or do something to let them know what's going on. You ain't got to do it for everybody, because a lot of people have communication, but there are some people that don't. And you got to be willing to make that sacrifice and do what you got to do to reach everybody. Point somebody to do everything. So when we look at this, people have been crying out in the church for far so long, crying out for help, crying out for spiritual guidance, crying out for understanding, crying out for nourishment, crying out for direction. And God has heard their cry, but the church ain't did nothing for them. And because we had did nothing for them, God is saying you more of a hindrance than a help. So I got to do something to get your attention. That's just my thought. Any comments right now? Anything anybody would like to add to that or say?
I thought about that as well, as far as how verse 20, I will certainly hear their cry. It's like a lot of other kids, and I kind of like the kids at the school. Nobody's hearing their cries, so he's in the sense where, like you were saying, like he hear their cries, and the people that are ignoring their cries, he's making them hear their cries. Like, oh, you had a choice to hear it. I gave you all these avenues to help that person, but you didn't. So now that you didn't help, I'm going to take it away. And I see that I kind of see that in the school, looking at the kids who are crying out to their parents for help, telling them that I need your time, I need your efforts, the efforts that you're putting into your job. I need that same energy. And then when a parent will come in and say, "Hey, I lost my job. Is there anything? Is there any direction you can point me in to help me out with this bill, that bill?" And that child, I'm looking at it at a spiritual way. You cherish that job so much that the child that you had, the child that you carried, is now seeking your help. Now you have no choice but to give them that attention.
And with that, and speaking of our youth in the school, most of the time when you hear a school shooting, it's a youth, and they have a mental problem. So it's like they have maybe reached out to people and tried to, let them know, hey, I'm going to shoot up this school. If but then nobody is like, oh, I didn't know. But then they go back and read the emails and all that kind of stuff. So he has shown us as a people all the school shootings. Okay, well, what are we going to do? When are we going to start listening to these people that's going out and buying the guns and shooting up our schools and stuff? So they are crying out, but the right people are not listening to try to prevent it.
And to piggyback on both what you and Sister Linda said, they're crying out. And the church is silent on a lot of the cries. Where does the church stand at? Well, the church, it should be no doubt what the church stands at. It stands on the Lord's side. It stands for what the doctrine and discipline says of whatever denomination it is, and the don't know where to stand at. But not only that, when we look at this, as it says, for the words that it's saying, do not take advantage. Do not take advantage. We take advantage of people's fears. We take advantage of people's uncertainty. We take advantage of people's hurt. We take advantage of people's past. What do you mean? Well, when I talk about fear, politics are ran on fear. Most politicians are trying to find out what you're fearing the most and use that against you. During the Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump election, Hillary's gonna take your what? Take your gun. And all them folks that thought Hillary was gonna take their gun voted for Trump. Realizing that Hillary cannot take your gun. Hillary can't even do nothing to circumvent that. I mean, even if she tried to circumvent the Second Amendment or try to get the Constitution rewritten, it's still going to take the act of Congress to do it. So they have that fear. Donald Trump, I'm going to keep people, all these people going to come out, I'm going to build a wall. Oh, they can't even come in because we're going to build a wall because they ain't taking my job. And we do that in the church because the Bible says, "I shall fear the Lord thy God." But that fear that we're talking about in the Bible is a humbling fear. I fear God for what He can do, good and bad. So I respect Him for His power. I respect Him for His authority. And I don't have to live in fear of Him because I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But we have people that takes advantage because of fear. Even in the church, we have folks on the flip side because the church is weak, because the church is hurt, because the church is in need. You have people taking advantage of a church. I paid my money. But now you got to do what I asked you to do. You know, I'm the biggest contributor in this church. If I leave, my whole family leaving, then what the church gonna do? You ain't gonna be able to keep the lights on. You ain't gonna be able to do this. You ain't gonna be able to do that. Right? The church is in a fatherless state because, and the reason why I say that because the church ain't got enough sense to realize that even if they leave, I know who I serve. It might hinder us. It might hurt us. We might have to change our times because we got to be here when the light, when the sun outside. But guess what? That's fine. Because that person is going to come back to a church one day or another. And they're going to be probably rolled in. And the family members are probably going to bring them back to the church they left. So we see this and taken advantage of, and not only that, we've seen the cries of people, even with the fatherless children and all of that. We see children being taken advantage of when it comes to health care, when it comes to WIC, when it comes to Social Security, when it comes to all of that. We see them being taken advantage of by politicians. And not only that, watch this. We see the youth get taken advantage of every time taxes come around.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We see it with child support. We see the youth getting taken advantage of. We see the elderly get taken advantage of. We see the church getting taken advantage of. And all of them are crying out. All of them are crying out. We're seeing right now, I sit there and look at a lot of stuff. You're seeing a lot of men getting taken advantage of because a lot of the ladies now that are growing up saying that they're they're not bad enough. They're not gangster enough. They're not this, that, just because they're working at McDonald's, they can't support me. Just because they don't have this, they have a nice car. They can't get my nails done. They can't, get my hair done and all that. I don't need to be with them, but you go in their house and they're sleeping on a futon at their mama house. They ain't got their own, but they expect other people to have it. So you see people are being taken advantage of, and the world is crying out. The world is crying out, and the question is, and I say the church, but the members of the church, what are we doing? What are we doing within our power to change this world? And the one thing that I know we can do, that we hardly ever do, is pray and fast. Because some things can't be changed but through prayer and fasting. And because I don't know what I need to do, Lord, I don't know the battle that you have for me to fight. I don't know what direction I need to go in. So now I need to go to the Lord in prayer first to find out the direction I need to go in. I need to pray and ask the Lord the vision that he has for the church. Because I can't do it by myself. And I want to make sure that I'm going in the direction that he's taking me in, because I don't want to be going this way. And the Lord is going that way. Going up that way. And I surely don't want to be going in the same direction. But the Lord is still in McChapel and I'm in the stop sign. Right? Because you understand, we can be going in the same direction, but we trying to speed ahead, and now we're even more trouble, right? Because we ain't got our protection. So the church, and that's why I wanted to touch on that, because the church is crying out, and people are crying out, and those that know the Lord, what are we doing to help wipe the tears off the faces of the world because it's crying? And one thing that I know, because I don't have the answer, somebody said, well, what can we do? We vote. We show up. We pay our tax. We're doing all we can. Well, keep praying. Keep fasting. How many times we fast personally throughout the year? I'm not talking about when Pastor said we got our annual fast. How many times personally you fast? I read something today, and I used to do it, and the Lord showed me I need to redo it again. I'm getting ready to change seminary schools. I tried reading 3 different times, but their theology and their teaching is not lining up with the theology that I've been raised on. I got into it with one of the teachers when they talked about preaching. You shouldn't preach this way. They tell me how to preach, because I write my sermons based on the congregation I'm in. But then that's what you told me? Yeah, but still everybody know me. I had, So I'm moving. I'm moving. So, but in that, I got to write an essay, which the Lord hadn't given me the words to write for this essay yet. And I've been struggling with this essay for 2 weeks now. But I went and started looking at the new doctrine and discipline that came out. And one of the things, that's what it said pastors should do on a regular basis, and every congregation do, what pastors should do. It asks the question, are you fasting and praying on not a day, but on a weekly basis? You can ask Sister Linda, what was one of the things I always did before the week, that Saturday before I preached. No, she used to get mad at me. I used to fast for 24 hours. I didn't used to eat or do anything that whole Saturday until I got in the pulpit and took that first drink. Then I switched it and started doing it on Wednesday, and fasted that whole Wednesday. So the discipline reminded me. The Holy Spirit guided me to the discipline to remind me that some things I need to start back doing, because that's the only way I can make change. That's the only way I can make sure I'm in line with the Lord showing me church is crying out. I know people are crying out, and I may be too busy to hear their cry. So I want to make sure that spiritual earwax is removed from my ears and the spiritual matter is removed from my eyes, so I can hear so the question is, if the church is crying, if the world is crying, what can we do? We need to take a personal fast, not the church is fasting, but every now and then. You need to have a day fast. Once a week, if you can, have a day fast and pray. And it ain't got to be a whole day. It could be, I'm going to take my medicine in the morning. I'm going to drink water, whatever I got to do, eat something, and I'm going to fast and pray. Well, from 8 that morning to 2, 3 o'clock that afternoon. I'm just going to be in constant fast and pray. Even if I'm at work, I can fast and pray. I still can not read. I can get off Facebook. I can get off of this stuff and concentrate because there's some change. There's some things that need to change. And the only way that we can change it is if we're walking hand in hand with the Lord. But also, the other reason why I wanted to walk through this, and anything else from anybody as we walk through this? The other thing this thing said, and we covered that in verse 24, my anger will be aroused, and I will kill you with the sword, your wives will become widows, and your fatherless. And I love the way the Lord does stuff. He told them earlier, don't take advantage of these people. But if you do, I'm going to put you in the same situation they bring. Because remember I told you not to treat nobody differently. Earlier, I told you not to treat foreigners different and all of that. Don't treat these people that don't look like you, that don't have the same thing as you, differently. But since you're going to do it, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put you in the same situation. A lot of us call that karma. That ain't karma, that's just God. Right? We call it karma. That's just God. That's just God allowing you to either bless you or allow you to let your heart stay hard. So we got to realize that, the son that what goes around comes. It's just God. But watch what it says right here. And this other thing I want to cover because I think this all of us right here. Verse 25. If you lend money to one of my people among you who is needy, do not treat it like a business deal and charge no interest. If you take your neighbor's cloak as a pledge, return it by sunset, because the cloak is the only covering your neighbor has. What else can they sleep in? When they cry out to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. Do not blaspheme God or curse the ruler of your people. All right, so let me go back to him. Let's tackle these. Let me try to tackle these quick. And I'm going to do it this way. With this, if you lend money to one of my people among you who is needy, a business deal. Benevolent offering. What is it for? Benevolence. It's to help. It's to help, well, not to help the church. It is to help the people of the church. Now, it doesn't say that you have to lend to everybody, right? But it says if you lend, don't treat it like a business deal. Don't treat it like a business. And I'm not saying nothing bad about any churches. Lord knows I'm not, because I know some churches that will lend money and tell them, no, I'm going to lend the money if you come and volunteer. Only way I'm going to lend the money if you show up to 2 services. Only way I'm going to do this if you got to do is for the church. Isn't that kind of like a business? Right? Now, I'm not saying, because you remember we said we were going to have, well, we weren't going to lend some, they had to fill out some information and all of that, because we wanted to get some information to make sure we know who they are. But you got some people will lend, some churches don't want to lend because that money is for the church. That money ain't for them. They doing this, they doing that. No, God is saying if they're willing to come to the church and ask, they're willing to come to the church and you know they're needed, don't treat it like a business deal. Because he ain't got to take collateral, right? But watch what he said right here. Even if you take it, if they give you their coat, they give you the clothes on their back, you know they're needed. If they're willing to give you the clothes on their back, the thing they have to sleep on, the thing that they have to keep them warm, because remember during this time, it ain't no central heat or air. Remember this time, it ain't no roof. And they were doing they sleeping on ground, you know, so that cloth, that sheep's wool or whatever it is, that's the only thing they got to keep warm, that's the only thing they got to sleep on. And if they're willing to say, look, I am in need, all I have is this, and you can keep this until I'm able to pay you back. If they're willing to do that, don't you should be willing enough to say, okay, and thank you, but I'll lend you the money. Here you go. Pay me back when you can. I remember my granddad always told me, don't lend nothing that you ain't willing to give away. Do it. So if the church need the light bill paid, and somebody else is coming to ask for that, then we understand. Look, we're willing to help. Maybe we could put you on payroll for a couple of weeks to help. But right now the church doesn't have it. The church has obligations that we need to do to keep right. But if you're sitting there with money in your benevolent account, and it just steady growing. Because once again, guess what? If they couldn't pay back then, remember? If somebody couldn't pay off their debts, what happened? So guess what? You ain't got to treat it like a business deal. Because they can't pay you what you did. Guess what? They're going to have to come back and work for you anyway and pay it off anyway. So you see how God is laying this thing out. If you lend it to them and they don't pay it back, don't worry about it. Don't lose sleep over it. Because sooner or later they're going to have to come back and do something for you or for God in a way.
So would that be also personal? Or you just reference?
I just reference to the church, but yes, personal too, because when we think about this was personal. I just put it with the church, but it wasn't no church right then. It was his people. It was thousands and thousands of Israel that he said, right? And then some of them had a little bit more than others. You know, all of them. And this is the funny thing, because it is personal. Loans. All of them came over at the same time. All of them came over, but some of them might have lost their stuff. No matter what they did. They lost it. Bad choices, bad decisions. They lost it. They got to deal with that. You ain't got to beat them in the head with their bad decisions. They made them. They got to live with it. So why are you beating them over the head for what they've done wrong? They were a man or woman enough to come and say, hey, look, I messed up. I'm in need. Everybody that walks in, I'm going to flip it back to the church for a minute. Everybody that walks in this door, they know they ain't been living right. When you walk from that car into that door, sit in the pew, then walk up to him on the invitation, or walk up to the pastor after church, or whenever they do it, or walk up to one of the members and say, look, I need help. I need a change. They know they ain't been living right. You ain't got to point know, you won't be in this situation if you want to let that man move in. They know they wouldn't be in that situation if they wouldn't let that man move in. And maybe if they would have let the man move in, they wouldn't be back here at the church right now. So we can't point out what they did wrong. They're living that life of what they did wrong. And the only difference between you and them is you've been in church a little longer, and you might be going back to the same situation that they're in. But you ain't letting nobody know. And the community has let them, you know, so we got to get to the point where people are crying out. People are hurting. People are in need. And the question is, what are we doing to help their needs? And sometimes when people come and lend, and it's not saying this, but when people come and ask for money, whether it's personal, whether it's even church, home, or whatever, sometimes you need to take a step back and say, look, I want to give it to you, but let me pray about it first. Let me pray. Maybe there's some prayer needs. I'm preaching to myself now. Let me pray about it. Let me pray about it first. And watch this. If it's something that's really needed, right, and they know they ain't lying to you about what they need it for, and you say, let me pray about it, most times they'll promise, okay, let me know. And hopefully they'll go in prayer too. But if them scoundrels are lying to you, right, the Lord is going to reveal it to you. The Lord is going to reveal it to you. And even if he tells you to give it to him, after he revealed that they're not going to do what they said they were going to do to them. Right? Guess what? When they take an account of their stewardship, because one thing I've always told Sister Linda, because she always get on, you need to stop letting people borrow money. You know they ain't using it for what they say. If that's the case, and Sister Linda, isn't this my exact words? When they come to me and really need it, I'm not going to have it. When it's in a desperate need, they really need it, guess what? The Lord is going to make a way that I ain't got it. So, when people come asking, when people come, do what thus says the Lord. Ask the Lord for guidance. Ask the Lord for what we should do. Going to this verse right here, 28. Do not blaspheme God or curse the ruler of your people. When we look at this, because we notice it's after he talked about money, talking about treating people the right way, and all of that, right? In other words, do not blaspheme God or curse the ruler of the people. When we look at this, the most basic measure of holiness, I'm reading this for him, is in what we say. God cares how we talk about him and those in rightful authority over us. God cares about what we say about him. Right? You know that old saying, sticks to break my bone, but words will never hurt me. That ain't true at all. It don't hurt you physically. The words have a way of breaking you down mentally. Words have a way of breaking you down through the years that you cannot recover from. The power of life and death is in the tongue. Words have a way. There are people in cemeteries now because of words. That was thrown. It wasn't because of bottle that was thrown. It was because of words. So God is telling them, do not blaspheme God. Do not talk bad about your Lord and Savior. But not only that, that's what he says right here too. And Lord, when I read this, Sister Britt, I had to ask the Lord for forgiveness right then and there. He said, curse the rulers of your people. In other words, them bad about those that he's placing in charge of you, no matter how he's placing in charge of you. And the first thing I thought about, Lord, forgive me, because I say something bad about Trump every day. The whole time he was in office, I said something bad about him. So Lord, forgive me. I had to go every day. He was in office. He was in office for 4 years, 4 times, 3, 6, whatever that was. So I seen it everything. So Lord, forgive me. All right? And it's hard. Watch this. It is hard sometimes not to say nothing bad about those that are in charge. Us as pastors, it is hard sometimes to not go off on bishops, presiding elders, and all of that. As church folks, it's hard not to sometimes go off on say nothing about pastors, presiding elders, and bishops. You know, the only difference is we got 2 levels, y'all got 3. Right? So we see this twice, y'all see it 3 times. But it's hard sometimes. It is hard. Now the truth is the truth, but don't blaspheme. Don't speak ill will. In other words, if you don't know the truth, don't say a mumbling word. Right? Because all it is speculation. And watch this. We're going to get into that in a minute. How much time I got? 15 more minutes. Okay. So when we look at this, we got to be careful of the words that we speak. What was it, Chris Tucker or somebody that said, Chris Tucker in Rush Hour with Jackie Chan, when he first met Jackie Chan, he said, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Yeah, well, God understands every word that comes out of your mouth, every thought that is in your head that don't come out of your mouth. Right? So we have to be careful. And that's a scary thing when you think about it. God told the people to not blaspheme him or the rulers, but we understand that he knows even our inner thoughts. So we have to be careful. Right? Because if it's just my thoughts, Lord, I can, help me with my thoughts. By the time my thoughts become my words, now I've hurt somebody else. I've hindered somebody else. Now I got a bigger issue. Because now I got to ask for forgiveness. And Lord knows I don't want to ask for forgiveness. Not only to the Lord, but to that person I just hurt. Because it was truth. Well, it was your truth. But was it the truth? There's a difference between your truth and the truth. Right? Go ahead, sister. No, sir. It looked like you were going to say. But we go on to see him saying right here, do not hold offering back your offering. Do not hold, this is verse 29. Do not hold back offerings from your granites or vats. Yeah, or your vats. You must give me the firstborn of your sons. Do not do the same with your cattle and your sheep. Let them stay with their mothers for 7 days, but give them to me on the 8th day. You are to be my holy people. So do not eat the meat of the animals torn by wild beasts thrown to the dogs. So when we look at this, I know the first thing people are asking, what in the world is granites and vats? And just a point of study, anytime you're starting to see stuff that you don't fully understand in the Bible, that's when you go and read another version of the Bible. That's when you go and look at other stuff. The English Standard Version, you shall not reveal God nor curse a ruler of your people. You shall not delay to offer from the fullness of your harvest and from your overflow of your presses. In other words, you remember shaking down, pressing together, running over. When you had the harvest stuff and all that, you put them in your barrels, you pressed it down. And whatever you couldn't, no matter how much you kept trying to press, something was going to run over. Just like with a glass. No matter how much you try, how big that glass is, if you keep on filling it up, it's going to eventually run over. So God was saying, make sure that you don't be stingy with your harvest and with your overflow. A lot of us have overflow and don't want to give it to nobody. Right? Don't want to help nobody. That's my overflow. I worked on that. Right? But not only that, he talked about the firstborn son. When we look at this, somebody got asked, well, is he talking about sacrificing the firstborn son? No. He's talking about allowing that firstborn son to be workers of God, to be a priest, to be work in church. Dedicate that person. You remember Samson was dedicated to the church. When you look at Samson was dedicated to the church. When you look at the 8th day, he's talking about circumcision. So all he's saying is just your best. Give God your best. Give God your best because you are the holy people. And because you're holy, you got to live holy. While other people are eating, the dead flesh, raw and all of that, you cannot, and the reason why is because I told you not to eat in blood. Right? So if it's been dead on the side of slaughter, the blood is still dead. It wasn't clean. It wasn't killed properly. So why would you do that? While other people are doing other stuff, I need you to remain holy. I need you to separate yourself from other people. And once again, I think that is a problem that we have. Sister Linda, if you want to go ahead and look over, pull up verse Exodus 23. I want to tackle one thing, and I want to try to tackle one thing in it.
A specific verse or?
Well, I'm starting with verse 1.
Okay.
So we have to separate ourselves from the world. We said this before. A lot of times now, you can't recognize the sinner from the saint. You can't recognize the preacher from the drunk. You can't recognize church folk from those that don't go to church. You can't recognize the atheist from the Christian. You can't. And there should be some distinguishing features about the children of God. And he's telling his people right here, you got to separate yourself. You got to do some things that to separate yourself from. But remember, we talked about that verse, do not take advantage of widows or the fatherless. If you do, there were crowd. If you lend money to one of my people among you in needing, but also that blaspheming, do not blaspheme God or to talk ill of people. Well, he took it a step further when we get to chapter 23. And in chapter 23, he's dealing with the laws of justice and mercy. So the first thing he says right here to him, do not spread, do not help a guilty person by being a malicious witness. Do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. When you give testimony in a lawsuit, do not pervert justice by siding with the crowd. And 3, and do not show favoritism to a poor person in a lawsuit. So we kind of switch now, right? And notice he started to talk about lawsuits. Well, I didn't say you can't sue people. But in that lawsuit, if you're finna be a witness, be credible. Be truthful. But I want to go back to verse 1. Do not spread false reports. Do not spread, in other words, don't gossip. Right? Because that's how false reports are, just gossip. Right? And a lot of the time, let me show you how easy it is to spread false reports. Columbine shooting, Parkland shooting, George Floyd, any of that stuff, false reports was being spread. And a lot of it was by us, and we didn't have all the facts. All right? We were going by what somebody else said. Sister Dan, you heard what happened? What happened? Man, they said they shot that man 15 times. No. All right? So Sister Diane gonna call somebody else. You know what? He got shot 20. It was 2 times with a pellet gun, and he's still walking around. But how many times have we heard about an accident in the community? In the community. We get on Facebook and they talk about rest in peace of so-and-so, and that person ain't even dead yet. Person ain't even on life support. They just got a broken fingernail, but the car's messed up. They should be dead. Because when you see the car, but all they had was a broken fingernail and the eyelashes went from here to the pipe. Because they ain't glued them all right.
Really? Really?
I'm sorry. Yeah, but that's how easy. I'm trying to get through this. That's how easy it is to spread false reports. And I'm gonna ask Sister Lourdes, and it may not be none, but I don't know. Imagine how many times man funeral home we got a call about somebody do they have a body and the person is still at the hospital in intensive care and they don't put them at man funeral home and the funeral next Saturday and they still so that's how easy it is to spread false reports, right? But it also says this, right? Do not help a guilty person by being a malicious witness. Watch this. Our papers are known for helping the guilty by being malicious witnesses. What are you saying? Because they always put what? The victim on trial. They always put the victim on trial.
Things from their past.
Things from their past. So we got to be careful in the court, the public opinion, right? And the self-appointed people court. Not only spread false reports, but not only the folks that are spreading the rumors, help them make it look like they're innocent and right. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, we see it a lot in the church. We see it in meetings. We see it on the Episcopal meetings. We see it in other meetings and all of that. That somebody's out of line. And I do it this way. Even in the Masonic order, you have stuff where people that are in charge are wrong. They're not following the doctrine and discipline. They're not following Robert rules of order. But because they're in charge, they think they could do it this way. And here comes somebody else standing up, saying how right they are. Return for agreeing with them. So we got to be careful. It happens that I believe once again that is why our churches are falling apart. And we have some issues, some lawsuits that are going on in the church right now, the AME Church. And if I know justice is going to prevail, but those that are standing up for the wrong, it's going to be a problem. And there's going to be some high-ranking officials that's in the church that's standing up on the side of wrong and doing exactly what this verse is telling them not to do. That's going to fall. But it also says right here, do not follow the crowd. Well, that's another problem right there. When you give testimony in a lawsuit, go back now. When you give testimony in a lawsuit, do not pervert justice by siding with those that are with the crowd, right? We have a lot of folks, right? That just follow. And let me talk about the church again. Let's do this at the church atmosphere. Then I'll be giving 5 minutes. We can even go down to choir meeting, any meeting in the church. When somebody felt like they've been wrong, right? They're going to call some other people. You need to show up to church tonight. Why didn't you show up to church? We got to vote on this thing, and I need somebody on my side. Well, what happened? Well, let me tell you what they did to me. Once again, there's their truth, and it's the truth. And we get all riled up, and we march, we march right on down to the church, and all of us wrong. There's two left shoes. As some of the old folks would say, we as wrong as Cooler Brown.
Amen.
I don't know who Cooler Brown is.
He's been around for a long time.
But all I know he's wrong. And because we're following the crowd, we allow the devil to prevail because we're following the crowd. And we don't even know why we're following the crowd.
Which is why we have to always do our own homework.
Right.
And make sure we know what we're talking about.
Right. And not only that, a lot of us, watch this, we follow the crowd to the polls on election day.
We do.
That's when we really do it the most. When I think about it, we don't do our own due diligence. We don't do our own. We allow the television, we allow the ads, we allow all of that to tell us who to vote for, and don't do our own research. All right? I am too, Sister Sam.